red side is that third pick, you know, you can pick a champion, ban away counters, you know, you get the second round of bans, you can pick something afterwards first. And I think one thing as well is that a lot of these bans being put on picks that you wouldn't necessarily think to be too high priority. Interesting enough, we see the Aphelios first pick for BLG, and then the Jinx answered that old school matchup we saw all the time in spring.
Yeah, basically the handshake on the bot side. The Jinx has been seeing a little bit more priority in play as of yet. Yes, I think the Lucian Nami has very much died in our region because of just people knowing how to deal with it, people knowing what way to kind of work around it. And with the Kalista and Zeri banned, you can see that Rare Adam is saying, look, we're not going to let this go to a late game fight without us having some kind of way of fighting back. So they get themselves a Jinx, they lock in the Wukong as well. And there's the Gnar coming out here for bins. So it feels like you kind of have to lock in your top laner, or you just straight up go for the Sylas.
Yeah, I actually like this. You know, you have one fantastic ult in the Gnar. The hostile takeover is honestly a pretty good one as well. But like, this is such a fast-paced draft. I feel like teams making some better decisions. Aphelios Renata really strong, especially when you know they're going for the Wukong for the diver. They now have the Sylas as well, so fantastic value. Jinx is going to have that range advantage you can play for, but then that Gnar as well for Bane going to be big. And now, second rotation, BLG, I kind of expect them to put some bans towards top laners to thin the pool against the Gnar, but in fact it looks like they're so confident in it, they're going to ban supports instead. Was RA, you just ban away the junglers. I think Lee Sin probably here would be my best guess for the second one.
Yeah, get rid of the Lee Sin, put Khan into something that he maybe doesn't have as much agency on, and get him onto something brand new in this particular series. No, they go with the Zin's outs. They're saying, look, put the Wukong into the Lee Sin. The Lee Sin does have that little bit of early pressure, but not as easy to execute on with those big team fights. So kind of saying to, look, Leyan feels confident to be able to kind of deal with you in those early stages, and that we can get the better benefit out of the matchup if you're on something like the Lee Sin.
I just find it weird because I think Khan has had such good Lee Sin performances so far. Really being able to connect and make those big plays in team fights, especially you have a Jinx on your team. Maybe BLG ban Tahm here, I was thinking. Like, maybe that's the thought process of RA, is that they could end up grabbing a Tahm Kench, and that kind of makes it so iBoy has a safety net. But yeah, if BLG end up taking the Lee Sin, you get a big insect onto iBoy, boom, Jinx out of the fight now. And also Lee Sin provides great disengage, kicking away. Regardless, RA, they can just take the top laner here, they know the matchup, and leave the support till late to get some information. But if they are just going to go for that Tahm Kench, then why not? And yeah, I feel like for BLG, this should have been the ban, not the Nautilus. That safety net for the Jinx could be very valuable.
Yeah, we can see how hard it is just to burst down the Tahm Kench in the best of situations. And you haven't really got huge amount of burst available to you, or even consistent damage as of right now. Yes, the Aphelios will scale up, but in the early stages, not really going to have the same level of kill threat, even onto something like a support Tahm Kench. We'll see the Poppy being hovered over here. The Poppy definitely becoming much more of a meta jungler, especially for some of the top teams. We saw Tarzan tearing up the Rift with it the other day. Even in their loss against RNG, LNG were still, specifically Tarzan, I must say, was just absolutely everywhere with this pick, and can mitigate an awful lot of the engage options for RA.
Yeah, and my question is going to be, what are RA doing in this situation? So we did see them before. They put the Sylas into the top lane matchup. They might look to just do that again here. That happened in game one if you did miss it, because ultimately I feel like maybe you need a bit more range in your composition. See what they opt to go for though. And if they end up going for just the Ornn here, yeah, I think this is a lot better. I think you want the Sylas to go top so you can have an active mid laner, because I feel like, you know, if you just lean into the late stages, or if you pick a melee top laner into BLG's composition is very difficult to play. They have like such a good anti-melee champion composition. Like, I think Wukong and Sylas are gonna have hard times this game. And so having the Taliyah, someone who can set up those early plays, get some momentum maybe onto the Jinx, because the Jinx is probably the big piece. But I'm going to be real, I kind of really like BLG's composition, what they have on offer here. Fantastic front to back, super tanky picks, a lot of things that make the dive from RA's life very difficult.
Absolutely. I think for RA, if they can get the snowball going, if they can get the Wukong to get into good positions, they can make their composition work, but it's a big if right now. And I think BLG have a lot of great answers to what they have. I think BLG have a lot of ways of creating their own opportunities as well. And I do think it comes down to that early jungle pressure once again. I think it comes down to how Leyan and Khan do end up coordinating themselves in this early stages. Because if we can see the early dragons coming in again, if we can see the pressure coming out from Leyan like we did in game one, that's far more desirable for RA than we saw him being honestly just very passive in game two.
Yeah, I think that's a major thing, is like the difference was Leyan. Leyan in game one, super active, despite having losing lanes, made the momentum happen. Game two, caught out, and basically invisible. So hopefully, especially since he's given this fantastic tool in the Wukong, he's able to make something happen. He's able to find these opportunities and snowball the game. Because despite the fact that Poppy is a good matchup into the Wukong, still Wukong is going to have that advantage in the AD skirmishes. Poppy kind of relying on slamming things into walls, using the W to shut down dashes. But one thing that's really powerful that I love about the Poppy is the ult now. For anyone who doesn't know, another reason we've seen Poppy come in is she got a buff to her ultimate. The knockback is huge, but if you cancel it, it goes onto a 15-second cooldown. So you can just charge it up, and if everyone like dashes away, you just let it reset, and you still have it available. Yeah,
well, we'll see now how it all ends up going in this particular game. RA versus BLG. One of them will be walking off the rift with another win. For BLG, you got to feel like it's got to come from them if they really, really do want to get themselves up into playoffs. But for RA, honestly, it feels like a loss here. You go, you know, starting the second half of the split with another loss would be absolutely crippling to your playoff chances. And for two teams that made it into the top 10 last spring, they are very much a faraway cry from those particular forms as of now. And RA feeling very confident in this level 1, even with the early defensive vision coming out here from BLG.
Yeah, I mean, this could end up getting volatile.
Here we go. Look at Gnar. You've already got Bin kind of sitting in the position here to be able to try and make this one work. Everyone just sitting around the side here. Leyan needs to be careful. Does have to flash over the wall. He's just out. He cannot take it. Now Yuyanjia thinking maybe they can take a fight here, but this is a bit of a difficult one. They're trying to just force their way out. As iBoy not quite getting hit here by absolutely anything. They will have the hostile, or not the hostile takeover, the handshake. There it is. They're going to land it into, and Cleanse has already been used by iBoy, who's going to have to flash over the wall. Oh my lord, RA, you opted into this. You don't die, but you lose so much.
Yeah, that is an absolute disaster right there. I feel like RA just end up losing so much. You know, though all those summoners are available, iBoy zoned off the wave when this is already a painful matchup because, you know, you have double range and range melee. And now Khan looking.
He's looking, but it's going to be difficult for him to be able to make that stack. But look at, yeah, damage.
That is the most annoying type of gank, where it's like he's not going to die. Both sides know they're not going to die, but he just chunks them out and makes laning stays a pain. And Cube, everyone is flashing on RA right now.
The only one who kept it is Strive, and you can see now that Khan saying, look, Leyan, you don't have flash. You can't contest me on this, and I'm just going to be an absolute nuisance here. Even if the camp resets, they've kind of done their job. They don't really care because they know there's no smite. So he's just waiting. 3, 2, 1. There it is. He just about gets there for Leyan, but this is so scrappy from RA, but great for BLG. They're just capitalizing on really basic mistakes.
Yeah, this has just been a sloppy start, and considering how, like, this, you know, the fact that RA had that strong start in game 1, weak start in game 2, this is not a good omen for them. You still have Khan running around at level 2 though at this point.
Yeah, they will still wait to see what they can make this one work into it. Again, losing the flashes feels bad, but if you don't gain anything from it, it doesn't actually mean anything in the grand scheme of things. We'll see Leyan. Remember that smite you just used? Guess what you don't have anymore? You cannot smite this away. Level 2 between Khan and Leyan. Khan has basically his entire jungle. He has spent his entire early game just inside RA's half of the map because he's going, look, who's going to contest me?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that, like, he can now just loop back through his jungle whenever he wants to take those camps, making Leyan's life difficult and just not letting him have an impact on the map. Leyan's still level 2, and if you let these lanes play out organically, Azir, we've talked about, really strong in lane, has prior into most matchups. Top lane, we saw what Bin is doing to Cube right now. And then bot lane, you know, especially with the summoner's disadvantages, everything is just very rough for BLG. They want their jungler to bail them out, and they're not getting that window.
Again, we talked about how important Leyan is to this team, how pivotal he can be and is to their success, and not having him on anything that, you know, or not giving him any resources really is going to be so, it's going to feel so bad, especially when you start to look towards those big level 6 spikes where he's getting the first item or at least half an item to try and make something work in these side lanes.
It's a 20 CS discrepancy bot, by the way. Oh my lord, man.
That is an oof. That is a large oof.
Yeah, things aren't looking too hot at the time being, but obviously we can see what RA can look to try and do. I think a big thing that has dictated this game is sort of playing for dragons early on, so we'll see if either team opts for an early one. I think the fact that Khan could just call his bot lane over if they need would be helpful, but for now you can just see plates already taken, already one going down at this point. And I'm not sure there's much RA can do to disrupt this.
I mean, yeah, like Leyan needs to try and get some camps into him because he's already starting to fall behind as finally Can does start to take away some of his own camps. You don't have flash available for iBoy or Yuyanjia yet, so you can't really go for an aggressive trade. And yeah, it just feels very, very bad. I will say it was a massive wave, so it's not quite 20 anymore, but it actually, never mind, I might creep back up to it because they're just starting to punish them so heavily.
I just feel like, you know, RA put themselves in this hole because they went for the level 1 invade.
Yep.
They picked Tahm, Kench into Renata, Aphelios, and so they kind of set themselves up for this fate. And now it is just... I feel like you have to find a window to stop the bleeding. You have to find a window to make something happen. The problem is, because Ryze and Chris have both their flashes, it's very hard to actually make a play. Like, you can't just suddenly have Leyan come in, because if he goes in for the play and then they flash out, easy to turn it around. And often, you know, if you're playing the harass lane rather than the aggressive engage lane, which is kind of how this one would pan out, then it does favor the defensive lane to have all summoners up and out. Dragon being started and RA trying to contest, but I think it's just gone.
They gotta go for something. There's the Weaver's Wall to try and stop them, but he gets used on his own person. We're gonna see Strike finally using his own flash. Can, though, has to go into the bailout, and he ends up taken down. That's gonna be first blood, and now you can see Ryze in a lot of trouble. Can he get himself away? His Icon's putting in the work. He cannot. And now Crisp caught in the back of the pit. Just about flashes over. Icon using the honey fruit to his advantage as he flashes over the wall himself. They will have the Desolate Dive to try and catch up on top of him. He tries to shift his sands, but it's not gonna work out. And when we thought it was all gone wrong for the side of RA, they pick up 3 kills and they're back in the game.
That's all you need. It's just BLG to start up Dragon and throw the game. As a result, RA easily in position to sweep that one up. And sure, they don't manage to get the objective, but they get the gold they need. Thing is here is Khan ends up so low in HP because he's tanking the Dragon. And they go for this play on a Strive. But Khan, he's like 20% HP as a result of this. He goes down so quickly, and the flash from Leyan means they don't even get the reset, and then Ryze in such an awful position. Crisp as well, caught here, and then iBoy, the honey fruit just means Icon doesn't actually finish him off there. Really smart play coming up from him.
Very, very nicely done. I love what iBoy does here as well. He doesn't stick around to say, look, oh, maybe I'll get the kill or something like that. He just kind of accepts it that he's not going to get it, so he goes straight away to try and catch up on that CS. He's still 20 CS down, but in a much better position than he was about 5 minutes ago.
Absolutely. I mean, this game was looking like it was just going to fall out of control, but Leyan finds the angle. This is a reason why he's been such a big piece for this team. When the early game goes well, is often off the back of him. It was the case in spring, and it remains to be the case now.
And I love that RA went for that. I love that RA decided, look, we need to go for a fight. I'm going to stop myself here because I don't love that Cube went for this particular fight. He flashes away. Not quite sure why, because he was dead either way. We do see Leyan maybe looking to try and jump on this. He has got the red buff, but yeah, you can't really move on top of that one. Now he might be in a little bit of trouble. He does not have flash. They're going to try and maybe jump onto him. Can not quite able to get the extra damage down, but... you know, BLG will be able to get themselves back a kill. But like I was saying earlier, like, RA recognized they were in such a deep hole. They needed to make something happen. And look, they're still 20 CS down. Probably a little bit more, to be perfectly honest. It's going to be about 30 by the end of this wave coming pushing in. But, oh, we will see the Cyclone bin. He still has a hop, though. I just feel like you're delaying him. It's not really going to give you anything, really.
Yeah, I mean, BLG are really happy with that. They saw Leyan at the play, therefore you know he's not doing anything anywhere else on the map. You have full information, you still get the kill, and then Leyan even overstays to try and make that happen, ends up burning his ultimate, and now he's just started up the Herald, but he's going to be called out on this one.
Yeah, he's going to be called out. You got Icon and Can in the vicinity, but the bot lane has already started to make its way up as well for BLG, so they are... well, not even just the bot lane, it's actually just the Renata of Crisp, and starting to make their way towards this objective. It will be continued here by the side of RA, but eventually Leyan will back himself off as the Rift Tail does get a bit of a reset. So now bot laners still there, picking up as much CS as they possibly can, but it is going to be the top side of the map that's the focus.
Yeah, and I think BLG, they can secure this Herald, should be in a good spot. Oh, they're trying to make a play on a Ryze here. He does have flash, though.
He does have flash. We're going to see him just kind of dancing around. Has already got himself the Berserker Greaves. So I like the idea coming out here from RA again. Just kind of saying, look, we can't just let this one go to the late game. We can't just let them scale up. We're already 20 CS down on bot side. We're already 10, if not 15 CS down in mid. This is something we got to make work for ourselves. As Yuyanjia tries to punish Ryze. Ryze just dancing beautifully around all these different skill shots.
and then no play really comes out on the bot side. They get a plate. That's it. The Herald is secured for BLG on the top side. Does feel like despite that play around the dragon that obviously didn't go towards them, they're in a comfortable spot. And something I want to note is that we've seen a lot more recently in the LPL teams heavily committing for like that early first dragon. You know, back in the day, it used to be if there was a good timer for it, there's a good opportunity, they'll just pick it up. But a lot more so recently, it's been like, no, we are starting at like 5-6 minutes. And a lot of times if you're challenged, it can be punishing. But it definitely feels like the rising dragon priority could be seen. And now BLG have the Herald. They could use the Herald mid, for example, try and use that pressure to go for the dragon. Or they could try and secure a tower somewhere else. Leyan tries to make a play bot, but won't find anything.
30 seconds till dragon spawns, but like you said, RA do have pressure on bot side, so maybe they look to try and make this one work for themselves. Strive is here, so maybe they can get the kill off here onto Rise. There would be an opportunity. The reset's coming in here for the side of RA. Actually, BLG looking to try and maybe change them back. They're just baiting in Yuyanjia. He gets shook right the way back into iBoy's face, and now with the dragon just about to spawn, it is going to be BLG back in position to be able to contest for this objective.
Yeah, vision control still in favor of RA, but, you know, reset's going to come in. I don't think Leyan should be starting this up right now. He is hovering in the area, and now iBoy's actually isolated.
He needs to be very careful with how he goes for this one here. If he got Hanshook, would have lost his cleanse at minimum. And with the resets coming in, they're just going to have to give up this dragon. They don't have the position on it, and that's going to be second Drake of the game for BLG.
Fantastic for BLG. They're getting the objective control. Yes, they got challenged before. Yes, they made a mistake, but they know the importance of getting these early dragons. And I think with the composition like theirs, you know, the fact that the enemy team has Wukong, Taliyah, these very proactive mid-jungle, if they're not able to find anything out of it, they are going to be in such a painful spot. And the fact it's a Hextech soul as well, if BLG secure that, things like yeah, that's going to stop them. Things like the Azir, things like the Aphelios that want to be able to kite effectively are going to be so much more potent with that extra slow.
Again, we just kind of wait. This is going to be a slow burner of a game. And we can't really underestimate how important this series is to both these squads. For BLG, brings you up to 4 and 6, a much more respectful scoreline going into the final 6 series of the series. And again, or of the season, I should say. And again, this is your season. Don't forget, this is summer split. If you not get into playoffs, that's it. You're kind of done. There's nothing there for you until January 2023. So you're on a pretty much a 5-month hiatus trying to figure out what you want to go for your team. And same for RA, 3 and 6, far better position than 2 and 7. 2 and 7, you're already down to a maximum of 9 wins available to you, which is already starting to be a bit more questionable about whether or not you can make it into playoffs. And we're going to start to eliminate people pretty damn soon in terms of our playoff picture.
I mean, I said at the start of the day, I feel like whoever loses this series probably isn't going to make playoffs. It's not like guaranteed, but it just becomes so much harder. And especially the fact that RA are 2-6 already, they have more ground to gain to try and make it back. So it's so important, so much on the line. You can feel like these teams have constantly fought tooth and nail through this series to try and ensure the win. There's no more wiggle room really available, especially as, you know, if you didn't catch the start of the day, we highlighted both teams have very hard schedules going forward. Still a lot of the top teams that they have to face down.
Yeah, even a win here doesn't even guarantee that you'll be able to do something, but I'll have to stop myself there as Bin is going to get his own Mega Gnar up as he gets himself hijacked and they have to flash away, but a great turnaround there. Bin might survive this one here. Strive taking up too much. Leyan! 3v1! And the NSI winning top laner shows what he can do.
And that's just an absolute disaster. You bring so many resources, you lose in terms of kills, you lose your mid-tier 1 for an icon, this Azir, who was so devastating last game, gets it. And Rise picks up 4 plates in the bot lane.
Full tower.
That's rough. Ugh. Just out of nowhere, 3,000 gold lead in favor of BLG.
Oh, this is disaster for the side of RA. And after things were kind of starting to stabilize, they were getting the bot lane back up, but now 40 CS down, a full tower down as well. You're able to get a kill back onto Bin. Oh, it just feels so bad. And now, yes, you're on some decent item spikes here as RA, but it's just not really going to be enough. I feel like we're starting to see the similar, setup as last game where they're gonna start to hit panic stations.
Yep, they're going to start to feel desperate. They're going to start looking for windows. And I think what's really important is how they approach fights, because RA kind of need to find flank angles, but they are finding something here.
They're looking for him. They're trying to make sure they can catch out Icon, but
Oh,
Icon
my lordy
survives. They're going to be able to try and make this one work for themselves as well as Yuyanjia gets hit up and taken out. He was hit by the last little tick of the hostile takeover, which meant he couldn't pop his grey health.
Yeah, rough, but a nice punish from BLG and Icon. You know, despite the fact he's jump bomb, he still looks for the proactive play, right? The turnaround, slamming them under tower rather than knocking them away. Strive will answer with a turret in the bot lane, but it just feels like the more time passes, the more uncertain RA look.
That is just, yes, you get a tower and bot side, but let's have a little replay here because they throw everything at Icon, but he plays it so well to keep himself alive.
Yeah, the fact he slams in and then Crisp flashing forwards to give him the shield gives him Guardian as well, so he does survive the ignite damage. And as you said, the final tick ends up coming through and doesn't let him use that grey health. So an aggressive play. And you know, I'm going to say I like the fact RA are looking for this. Despite the fact it backfired, they have to do this. They are in a bit of a hole right now. They need to look for these proactive plays. They can't just sit back. Like, look at the top lane, CS discrepancy. Look at the bot lane. It's 30 CS lead bot, like 60 in the top lane right now.
Yeah, Bin is just schooling Cube right now, and it's a 3,000 gold lead to about 3.5 actually as BLG now get their waves in order, try to make sure they're clearing as many wards as they can. They haven't cleared that one in the back of the pit, but there's no teleport for Cube as of yet. He's not really in a position to be able to set himself up as a big kind of flanking carry at the moment, so RA now have to, after pushing for vision control in that Dragon Pit, will have to succeed it as BLG start to take control here. Look, they're going to give this one up. Leyan onto the Rift Herald, and honestly, I don't have a huge issue with it, but I don't think it's the correct call because I think that, as you can see in the minimap, I think BLG could maybe fight for both.
I honestly feel like they're in a position to do so if they can get this dragon quick enough, but it looks like members are around for RA protecting the objective, but this is third dragon for BLG.
I feel like 17 minutes.
Yeah, if you're not contesting third dragon at this point, you know you're in the hole. And now BLG can just play towards that fourth. If they get solo, I think it's almost impossible for RA to bring it back. It's such a power boost. It's going to make it very difficult. I think especially just the slow effect. The fact that, you know, if one of the melees steps too far forward, they'll be slowed down, picked apart. If any of the backliners, you know, get caught by the AoE slow, they'll just get chased down. And sure, RA are using their time well, right? They get the Herald, they get this tower, they get an objective bounty, but it just still doesn't feel like enough.
Yeah, they're trying to bring back the gold just a little bit, but 3 dragons down. It's 2,000 gold now in favor for BLG. And BLG have the Aphelios, the Azir, they have the Gnar. That will just become a split-pushing machine. And you can see just how this Sylas flex doesn't really work right now for the side of RA. They're not really doing much with it. And I like the idea from coming out from RA, but the fact that it's just not executing as well, I just would have preferred to see this Sylas in the mid lane and maybe go with something, like you said, a little bit more traditional in the top side.
I think the problem is they saw like things like the Renata Aphelios. They saw the fact that there's like, you know, a lot of champions that make melee champions' life difficult. And they're like, well, we don't want a melee mid laner, melee jungler, and a melee top laner, and a melee support. That's just not going to be a good time. But I don't think they've really found a better way to navigate things from the position they're in here, and maybe it would have just been the call to go for the Sylas in the mid lane and maybe pick a range top or something, although other than that, those feel very, very rare at the moment.
Few and far between. Go Quinn. And Nivea. The Shy brought it out earlier this year, you know? They were able to make that one work for themselves. We will see Ultimate come out there, Keeper's Verdict, put Strife, and he goes, you know what? I wanted to go top lane anyway. Thank you very much.
He just takes it. He's like, yep. Thanks, appreciate it. It's
yeah,
not over enough back. I mean, that's something as well that makes things hard, is that like if you get a good ult from the Poppy going into a team fight, just the amount of time it takes you to walk back into the fight is so long. They can just turn a 5v5 into a 4v5, 3v5, and then very hard to sort of like disengage and wait for your teammate to get back there.
Yeah, 2 minutes 45 or just over 40. That's your timing now as RA. That's when you have to fight. You need to get as much in your kit as you physically can and go for that fight. Hope and pray that you are able to get that dragon, because right now you are losing on all fronts. Look at the vision. Or rather, let me correct that statement. Look at the lack of vision that you have now as RA. You have a ward on your own Krugs. You have a ward down the bot side. I will say, though, they're trying to go for this move, but the Azir, the Streamer's Legacy, it's so hard to make these dives work.
Yeah, the fact that tower's there just means it's so difficult to play around. So Oh, it's a hard one. It's a hard one ultimately. And here, BLG are just going to keep applying pressure, but there isn't any on them. You know, RA are fishing, but BLG have no reason to step up unnecessarily. 2 minutes until that dragon. And I want to see RA try and fish for some good opportunities, like find flank angles. They're heading over to the Baron. It looked like they might just go for like a Baron play instead, rather than risk the flip at the dragon, which can make sense to an extent, but, you know, I don't think they're going to find much over there.
So it's a flip, and also you don't exactly take it exceptionally quickly. You haven't really got Jinx up to those 3 items. You're got 2, so you're doing fairly decently, but you're not exactly in Baron shred range. It is 1:20 till that dragon spawns, and RA, they seem to have planted their feet on this top side. They've said, look, we want to try and maybe look for the trade back, but now I think they've realized BLG would be able to shoot them like fish in a barrel. They could even just leave the Azir up towards that top side, let the rest of BLG take the dragon, and then RA just couldn't be able to take that fight. So now they're going to look to try and maybe make this one work. Yuyanjia has to flash away as Icon went over the wall. They do get some decent damage down top of him as Icon has to flash over. There's a hostile takeover onto Yuyanjia as they try to make this one work. The Devourer comes out to keep the Wukong alive. Yuyanjia trying to see if he can catch out Rise. He flashes away. He does get the Mega Inferno Bomb, or excuse me, the Super Mega Death Rocket right on top of his face. Yuyanjia had to go for something, and sadly that something wasn't it.
Yeah, no, Leyan's super low in HP. There's still time for resets to come in before the dragon, and Yuyanjia should be alive, but so many summoners been. And actually, so what I'm going to say is, if you look at the side of RA, a lot of flashes available, whereas Rise, Icon, and Crisp have lost theirs. This could be the window for RA. If they can make it into the fight with those summoners down, with those ultimates unavailable, this is their best odds to be able to find a fight.
And it's a Hex Rift. You'll have those Hex Gates coming out, so Yuyanjia won't be too far away from joining his team. He's just respawned. Dragon hasn't spawned onto the Rift just yet. Like you said, it's always a big objective. There's the Reaver's Wall. You're not going to be able to it's actually not going to really do anything, to be perfectly honest. It sort of kind of stops a retreat, but you're way too early with that one there. Khan taking a bit of damage there as Leyan gets himself onto the backside of the pit. It's a fight on 2 fronts. They're kind of saying, look, Bin and Rise are up to the top side. There's a good Cyclone to try and maybe catch this one out. Icon gets bumped up in the bounce house as he gets taken out here. The bailout will be just enough to keep him alive for a little bit, but look at Rise putting out some serious damage on the Strive. He wanted to try and take this one, but a shutdown comes out here, and RA are able to fight it back. Khan in a lot of trouble. He flashes. It does get hit by the rocket, but he should be able to take him down now. They're going to try and jump on top of Bin, who does get a good Gnar ultimate into the wall, but RA, they had to take a fight, and they did, and it worked out.
All the summoners being down made all the difference there. RA find their window now. They have to head onto the Baron and try and secure this one. Denying one dragon from BLG is not enough with the scaling available to them. You need to secure something more. TPing coming up from Bin. They're going to try and contest this one. It could all come down to this.
Here we go. The TP is there. They're going to try and go for this one. 3v5. You can see the health bars are relatively low. Strife not exactly in a great position. The dragon going down to about 1,000 secured. No smite! No smite! Oh my lord, there wasn't a smite on Leyan. They're going to use a Keeper's Verdict and actually get everybody out. There is a Blast Cone there, which almost puts Strife into a bad position. But my lord, Leyan, my health. My heart, you can't be doing that, but RA, they get everything they want.
Yeah, tense moment, but they're able to get it. And from a game that looked so doomed for RA, they take a play that honestly a lot of times might have backfired, might not have worked, but they managed to execute. They managed to find their way back from the game. They took a risk and it absolutely paid off. Now we got a replay over here. Remember, Icon no flash. So even though Cube doesn't connect initially, the fact that there's a flank from Leyan means there's no space for Icon to get out. They eventually take him down, and then Rise tries to just do as much damage as possible, looks for the hero moment, but unfortunately just gets run down here.
Yeah, this is RA just having an opportunity, and they bring this game back. They're equal footing now in terms of gold. They've got a lot now back in their plate, and honestly, that being equally distributed basically throughout everybody is much needed. Yes, it's great to have it on one carry, but now everyone getting a nice little bit of extra gold does mean they can actually look to try and get themselves back into this game.
Yeah, put them on par for now, and means that I feel more confident with them going into like subsequent dragons to see what they can do. But for now, they want to be able to crack that mid lane tier 1 and get some pressure. The problem is here, though, it's still in Azir. It's still all that wave clear available that makes it so hard.
Still in Azir. There's the Weaver's Wall, but again, it's a little bit too early. They haven't cleared out the minions just yet, so haven't been super happy with the ultimates there from the side of Strive, as now we can see a 2v1 in this bot side cube with Demonic Embrace and Leandri's Torment, or Leandri's Anguish. He's going to be anguishing himself a little bit as Leyan gets to try jump in there. We jump straight back forward as does end up getting himself back out. I do believe we were slightly delayed there, Aux, for quite a while, so they think they fixed out our feed and we've just skipped forward in time.
Just teleport forwards a little bit. We'll go with that. Just help us out. But ultimately, RA managed to get the tier 1 in the mid lane, so that's something, but unable to really get too much more for the time being. And yeah, I mean, the Jinx is becoming scary right now. That range, very threatening. That's one of the big elements of RA's late game, is relying on that Jinx to be able to fire those long-range rockets and connect onto targets, because the melee champions, as we said before, the short-range champions, gonna have difficulty into BLG's composition, whereas the range of the Jinx makes her in a prime spot to take over.
And 26 minutes just coming up to it now. We are 5 of 5 kills. It is only about a 500 gold lead. Nothing to be writing home about. In a minute and 45 seconds, we will have another dragon fight. That is where, again, RA need to fight at every single point. They cannot just let this one go. There's no more trading off on the map. But I will say the Baron is helping them bring this one back. I will say, though, even though they got the Baron, they still actually lose gold after the fact of it because they lost that kill on bot side.
Yeah, now we're sort of leaning towards that time where we're going to be set up for objectives again. And I feel like now is always a good time to kind of take stock of summoner spells, because Leyan is not going to have his flash at all for that dragon. iBoy is approaching, might have it in time, but kind of everyone else will have theirs. And I feel like for the side of BLG, it kind of favors them. If you can stay at a safe distance, like, the goal of RA is to get onto the enemy backline. The goal of BLG is to have Icon and Ryze DPS safely. So I feel like the burden really is on RA to find these, but already they've set up in the area in advance. This is important. If you want to find those flank angles from Leyan and Cube, you want to have BLG pushing into areas they don't have vision.
And now they control the top side, or the bottom half of the map, top side of it, around that Raptor pit. I will say, though, BLG are at a point where they could maybe look to try and trade back a push in mid lanes. You got to make sure you're putting these minion waves back where they belong. Even the one minion could be detrimental. That's why the Zap had to come in there. Bin needs to be very careful with the way he's pushing forward. They do have the decoy going over the wall there, but Leyan doesn't quite find an opportunity. They clear out the wave once more time, and BLG still posturing. BLG still hunting, seeing if they can find a weak point in the armor of RA. And RA, they need to be a fully stone wall. They cannot show weakness, otherwise they will crumble.
Yeah, trying to use this wall to buy time. Oh, big ult from Khan.
They just have to delay now. RA did not start the dragon just yet. There's going to be the streamer shuffle coming in. Icon flashed in to try and get that. The hostile takeover will land onto Leyan. Icon not quite dead just yet, but the dragon is doing some significant work. They do get the Moonlight Vigil out, the bailout onto Icon as he falls down. RA going to try and flip it and then get the kill onto the dragon. That's going to be 2 kills and a dragon to RA. Aux, they're not out of it just yet.
They find the window and Icon tries to make the hero play, but it backfires. We get the ult from Khan come out, but it doesn't buy enough time. And then Icon ends in such a compromised position, tries to go for the shuffle, it doesn't work. And the end result is RA get a second dragon. BLG missing out 2 opportunities to secure Soul. We'll get the replay coming out here. So we see Icon tries to make this hero play. He knows, right, the numbers aren't there. We want to make something happen. It ends up honestly kind of fudging it. I'm going to be real. Doesn't quite connect. And it's just a rough performance there. Icon dodges away from the stun initially, but he's nothing left. No mobility. He just gets trapped in the pit. Yeah,
he would have needed about another 5 or 6 seconds, really. And does come down to a smite fight, but at the end of it all, Leyan does have the quicker fingers. And finally, Leyan on this Wukong starting to ramp up and be more significant. I hope I Will Dominate is watching, because he's gone for the Chemtech Chainsword as the second item. And it's just such a smart build path here as well, considering that the ones he's trying to take out, like the Aphelios, if he can cut down that healing and just take them out himself, he's done his job.
Ooh. Khan taking a lot of damage all of a sudden from iBoy.
Ooh, Bin tried to go in there, but got hit by the traps, and now Icon has to use his ultimate defensively. That's great from Cube, though, with the stolen ultimate of the Gnar. They will take down Khan. They're not quite able to get the abduct, but they are just chasing him at BLG, and BLG, they're running for the hills. They can't fight this anymore.
Yeah, they've lost one of the frontliners. Bin has Mega, but he's so low and about to time out, and now Jungler dead. They can head on over towards a Baron. You can see Yuyanjia there just to try and body block, but doesn't really achieve much. But now this is Baron for RA. And for a game that seemed to be in such a rough spot, RA have managed to turn it around and, oh, been looking to challenge.
I mean, Strife is very low. If you can get a reset here, that'd be huge. They do get the dragon, though. Don't forget, you'll be stunned if you go over those rocks. That's a great handshake, though, from the side of Crisp to try and stop this one out. And now you got the Aphelios. Look at these health bars. They're so low.
Hey, what are they
That's
doing?
one. That's two. What? Oh, they've DC'd. There's no way. They had to DC. There's no way. No one paused. Oh, my lord.
Matching your previous performance. The hope is to improve on it. Now, we have seen ourselves fly into the game back where we were before. So Strive and iBoy are dead. Baron in the hands of RA. It's a continuation of where we are. And BLG now have a bit of pressure with those two down.
Yep, as we said, there was just a continuation. Bit unfortunate for RA, but they did get themselves back onto the map. They still have the Baron buffs in their hand. They will lose their top tier 2 and their mid tier 2, but should be able to reset the map now once they're here. So we come back into the game. BLG reassert themselves onto the map. They're going to be able to reset. We have got 3 items onto iBoy. He's got his Infinity Edge. You actually have 3 items onto Strife as well. 3 items onto Leyan. Excuse me. There's 3 items across the board here for RAs. They are looking huge right now. But on the other side of this BLG, they also got some big items themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of spikes are coming in fast and quick. And we have a lot of late game carries, so very relevant, very important. I feel like Rise in particular, the fact you have the Gale Force, Bloodthirst, Infinity Edge means you're a hard target to take down. If he has the right weapon setup, then he can honestly just like shred through Leyan quite comfortably before Leyan can take him out. I think the point when you have the Bloodthirst, I mean, you look at the size of that shield. If Chris was able to protect you as well, that's pretty significant. But now, a minute 15 until that dragon, BLG are posturing aggressively, trying to set up in this area.
Now, I know you mentioned that the individual dragons don't give you that kind of a boost that you need, but I do think if you get 3 Hex Drakes, the extra attack speed, the extra ability haste, that does stack, and that does become very relevant if you can get to 3, 4 versions of them alongside the the Dragon Soul as well. RA, though, not willing to be outdone here. 45 seconds till the dragon spawns. Aux, how are we going to be seeing these two teams look to fight?
And I think BLG just want to find that front to back. Stop the melees from getting on your backline. Stop Leyan, stop Cube, and keep Rise in a position where he can DPS. Keep Icon in a safe position. Don't go for those hero shuffles, because if you try and go for iBoy and he flashes it, you're going to be left down a creek without a paddle.
Now, remember, the last few dragons, we have seen RA in the dragon pit quicker, in the river quicker, but they might look for the end instead. They might say, look, you can take the soul. It's a good Moonlight Vigil to try and stop them right now. The dragon hasn't spawned for 10 more seconds, and BLG, you got to make sure you don't lose your base. It's a soul, yes, it's very powerful, but you're on the wrong side of the track. RA, they could go for the end. This is perfect. They've got the Weaver's Wall. They can actually force them to fall back.
I mean, they'll fall back, but I just don't think they're going to be able to end with that wave soon enough.
I think they can do it because no one's actually recalling just yet. They're going for it. They've got the damage with iBoy. They finally get Rise back on top of this one here. The dragon will be taken here, but they're going to try and maybe take the fight afterwards. They know it's a 4v5 for the moment. RA not quite able to do it. They will lose the soul. They cracked open the base. They thought about it, but like you said, didn't think they had enough damage or enough time. But now Icon, he's on that flank of days. He's going to try and find out if he can catch out Strife and iBoy, but recognizes he's really not in a position to do so. And
it feels rough for RA because I don't think taking out the mid inhib really does that much. I feel like as much as the Weaver's Wall was smart, it also separated anyone from interrupting the reset. So Rise got the recall. There was like 2 caster minions on the cannon, and the cannon isn't actually that helpful when you have Baron for taking out the Nexus towers because it won't tank them, it won't walk up to them. So I just think RA commit to try and apply that mid lane pressure, and sure, they get a lot, but they lose the soul. And the soul is there for the rest of the game. That slow, that extra damage is so painful for how the team fights are going to play out. The fact that you want to close the gap on this back line, and suddenly every time you're hit, it doesn't even have to be someone significant, right? Chris can hit you with his E, just clip you with it, boom. You're getting slowed AoE, and it is quite significant.
Soul for an inhib. More gold for RA as well as we come back into
I think you might be muted.
I am. I had to cough, and I forgot to turn it back on. Thank you so much. But I was just saying, a soul for an inhib. We'll see if it's a good trade or a bad one. You got some significantly good range here.
You know, she'd have to say it's a bad trade flat out, right?
Yeah. You know
I will
what?
make the claim early.
You'll make the claim, and if RA win the game, you'll look like a fool. A fool, Aux.
I mean,
that's
even if RA win the game, it's not off that play, I'll tell you that much.
Hey, it's part of the playbook, you know? You got to open up the pages, you got to follow the story and the narratives, but We'll say there's some decent wards here for the side of BLG to go for maybe a little bit of a flank. They've got some decent ward coverage as well, but that's going to be covered off now by the side of RA, who are trying to just separate BLG away. They're kind of saying, look, if we can catch you guys out, you can't really take a fight on your terms. Like you said, you want that front to back available for the side of BLG, whereas RA, if they can get onto these carries very quickly, that's where the game gets a little bit more significant. The slow is already starting to come out. You can see how long and laborious it is for Strife and iBoy just to walk away from this.
Yeah, the slow is so strong. It's actually really impressive. Like the fact that it like changed as well. If it was like, okay, if you get hit, you're slowed, that's annoying, don't get me wrong, but it's the fact it changed. Like you might not even be the person who gets hit, you were just close enough to the person who got hit, and suddenly you're waddling along and can't even move. Yeah, painful in how that has sort of given that boost to BLG. Now, BLG is set up in the Baron area. That's going to be the next objective in 20 seconds. They've taken mid-prio early, which is important when the super minion's there. And now they're trying to get a posture here. Remember, someone oversteps, that slow will just make it easy to gain ground.
Bin is looking for something. Will hit Mega just as the Baron spawns. So we'll end up starting losing that if they wanted to go for a fight here. And you can see, all right, they're not comfortable walking into this because they don't have vision control despite just being in the top half of the map. They don't have full control over this area. They do have a ward, though, on the backside of this pit, so they know it's going down. It's going down very, very fast. Weaver's Wall is there to try and put Khan in a bad situation. The smite comes in. It's a little bit early, but there's a good shuffle as Cube gets caught out. He's going to have to try and deal with this fight all on his own. Gonna have a little bit of a movement there to try and catch him out, but Icon, or sorry, not Icon, Khan does end up keeping himself alive, but we'll see Leyan try to go over the side of the Baron pit, as we can see there. iBoy getting hit. Rise is going in. He's aggressive. He knows he can do this one here. They're gonna keep pushing forward. Look, Icon pushing in with the Serena Stan's shoulders. As I do end up pushing themselves back, but they can look for the end. They got the Baron, and then there's two people dead.
Yeah, they can just push up. They can just harass them down and look to take the structures. Even if they don't end here, there's a wave pushing bot, I think, which they might send Khan to. So they can at least do a ton of damage to the base bare minimum, if not take the end here.
Well, they're going to look for it. You do have a Lord Dominic's Regard now finished up here for iBoy. As the Baron minions start to push in, they will land a little bit of poke onto Crisp, and he's fairly low at this point. Even lower again as the Super Mega Det Rocket comes in. Good flash there from iBoy. He's been asked to flash himself away. They do get on top of Icon as Yuyanjia tries to keep his carries safe, but he can't get to Taliyah. They are taking some fairly decent health bars off of these people, but look at the aggression from Rise. A double kill, but Cube is now here with the Mega Gnar ultimate. These are low health bars, but the minions are streaming in. They know they haven't really got the wave clear, but now here comes Leyan. They can't really take this fight on the side of RA, but BLG, they're just continually putting down the pressure. Now they pull the trigger. Now they look to try and make this fight work. That's a great Gnar into the side there has been. Will end up falling down, but can they get anything else off it? No, they cannot. It is going to be Khan and Icon making the win, and BLG will go up to 4 and 6.
A very laborious and messy series, but in the end, BLG managed to find it. They finished off the soul in this game and managed to take the series 2-1, but man, did they have to fight for it. And it was worth it, because with that extra win on the board, makes them that much closer to making it into playoff contention. As you said, 4 and 6 now. The scoreline does put them so much closer to that top 10.
Yeah, very much keeping them in the game. And now 2 and 7 for the side of RA. It's heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking, especially when something like the network outages just end coming up, and that's going to obviously be one of the big focuses of this one here, regardless of how you twist it. But and yeah, this is going to be an interesting kind of time now for BLG. They've got some pretty massive matches coming up along the horizon. We've mentioned it a couple of times, but coming up next week, next week they've got RNG and JDG, 2 of our top 5 teams. Then it's FBX, V5, OMG, and then finally they end out the split with WE. But again, at that point, you're either in or you're out. There's no real difference in terms of what you're doing realistically at the last day of the season, unless you can really put out some upset wins.
Yeah, I feel like one element is RA have only, after this one, they played 9 games. There's still time, but we talked about the schedules earlier. It's painful. It's difficult, and I feel like RA showed some good moments there, but it was just a bit inconsistent. And unfortunately, I feel like it's especially sad that they had the internet issues coming in that didn't exactly help out.
No, it didn't really, and unfortunately for them, they fall to 2 and 7. But for BLG, the kind of push for playoffs still goes on. sitting at 4 and 6 does actually put them just underneath FBX, I believe, 11th, I think that they're at the moment. So they're still hunting, and you still have to keep those teams like FBX, OMG, even LNG, to be perfectly honest, on their toes. They could end up getting swallowed up there if they're not able to keep up the momentum. And we mentioned it a little bit earlier, but like LNG on a 3-loss streak, FBX on a 4-win streak, we could see some more shuffling happening in the next few days, let alone weeks.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. We could see things definitely change. And I think the fact that you highlight FBX is a great one. You know, you have to look at the form these teams are currently in. Teams who are like on these win streaks are gaining ground, whereas the ones where, like, you know, as much as they might look in a safe position now, no guarantee that they can sort of maintain that, can keep that momentum. Yeah,
absolutely. I think for BLG, momentum is key. I think this is a good win for them. Like we said, they have some very key matches coming up in the next while, but this is going to be their 2 wins in a row. You can't really take that away from them either, because this is still good momentum for them to try and again contest with the likes of TT, FBX, OMG. So, but for RA, it does feel like they are starting to dwindle down into irrelevancy. We start to see a couple of those teams, LGD, RA, IG, WE. These are teams that, even though mathematically they're not out of contention for playoffs, it does start to feel like they are starting to think of 2023 more so than 2022.
Yeah, and I think BLG, just to move back to them, you know, we've seen Icon had a pretty good game too. We've seen they're still switching around the mid lane, trying to work out what they're doing there. Rise and Khan, they definitely had some moments in that series that weren't ideal, right? There was definitely some mistakes, but I think there was some really good play for them as well. Like, you got to remember, these players have been brought up from the LDL, a lot less experienced than a lot of their counterparts in that series as a whole, but particularly on their team. And just the fact that they were able to find those opportunities, find those moments to really step up. Rise looked like a monster later in that game. Khan, you know, definitely had that ult away at the Baron when he knocked everyone over the pit. Not the best, but still a solid performance from this lineup. And once again, we get a goal graph that looks like, you know, whatever you want to call it, Sheen.
Yeah, it's whatever you want to call it. It's a win for BLG, I think is the best way we can put it. It was a long first series. We are past 1 o'clock in Irish time, and it is EDG versus Top Esports hasn't even started. That's the crazy thing about this. The first game went for 47 minutes. The second one went for 37, 35. This one went for 38. It has been an absolute slugfest to get through this series. And for BLG, not exactly promising for them going into playoffs if they're taking these amount of games, especially with the timing over them. But a win's a win's a win, and they will take that with just a little bit of pride, saying knowing they did it in the end.
I will say one thing is that BLG were always like a slower paced team in spring. That was like a trademark of them. They were I think they had the longest average game time off the LPL. It is a slower meta that we are seeing. You know, it may be that the LPL hasn't really slowed down much, but like there's more opportunity to pick these picks. There's kind of been like a polarizing effect, right? Because these more scaling picks have come in, things like the Corki, to counteract them, you pick like aggressive early picks to shut them down early. But I think, you know, BLG can lean into this style. And shit, it means we got long game days, long series, but if it gets